I am Sheila Long O'Mara, Executive Editor with Furniture Today. Welcome to this week's Bedding Insights. And today's guest is Mike Magnuson. He's no stranger to our Furniture Today audience as the founder and CEO of Goodbed.com. Hi, Mike.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm great. Better than you since you're just now getting your coffee.
That's right. I'm only half a cup of coffee into my day, and that's a problem. So apologies in advance to our audience.
It'll be great, I'm sure. So we've been talking about consumers and reviews, product reviews, and we all know that those are important to selling mattresses. But you're seeing some interesting trends with consumers and their thoughts about product reviews. Can you talk about that for a few minutes?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think what we were talking about had to do with consumers and just their skepticism. They come into the process of buying a mattress generally without a rubric for how they're going to do this, because it's been a long time and they've forgotten what they did last time, and they're generally just a little cynical and expect to get sold to and just expect to have maybe come in with low expectations. And so earning their trust has always been a big part of the process, I think, of selling a mattress. And I think where consumer reviews fit into the equation is in that realm, is that it helps consumers come in distrustful, and therefore they look for third-party validation. And that's why consumer reviews have been so important and continue to get more important as consumers grow more and more cynical and just wary of anything that they might encounter in their shopping.
And so you're seeing them get a little bit more skeptical about what the reviews are that they're seeing online. Any indication as to why that is? What flipped that switch?
I think that my view is that the consumer has continuously gotten more skeptical for like the last 70 years. I mean, like 70 years ago, it was like, wow, 8 out of 10 dentists recommend this? That's amazing. I'll definitely use that. Like, then it was like, oh, wow, like this woman's like says her clothes are whiter. That's like amazing. I'm totally, Then by the 80s, people were really cynical. They were making fun of those types of commercials. And like, that's when we started to see humorous ads coming in. And then by the 90s and early 2000s, when consumer generated content started to come into the fore, consumers were so fed up with marketing and being marketed to that they were just desperate for that. And so, but then of course, like over the last 20 years, we've seen like a lot of abuses on that side. So it's like companies just continue to figure out ways to try to trick and deceive the consumer, and consumers continue to ultimately figure out like how they're being tricked. But along the way, their skepticism and cynicism grows.
But those reviews are still important. They weigh into the mattress purchasing decision, correct?
Yeah, it's just a matter of like the consumer, how they have come to use them, right? Like, so they're a little bit more we see with reviews, like they're a little more forgiving of like, oh, I understand that not every review is going to be 5 stars. I understand. In fact, I want to see what happens with the 1 stars. Like, what does somebody respond? Like, it used to be that like they would just look at an average, or they would look at something like that. Now they've become a little bit more nuanced in how they try to understand what's going on with those reviews. So they're becoming, I don't know if sophisticated is the right term, because they're certainly not. They're certainly still being duped in many ways, especially in this category. With the so-called independent review sites that are all over Google results. But in some ways, they're becoming more sophisticated in processing the additional information that they have.
Gotcha. So they're not just taking that 5+ star review, and I know there's not a thing, but over the top review and going, oh my gosh, this must be the greatest thing since, a mattress was ever created. They're more nuanced in how they weigh those, I suppose.
Yeah, but they would still get tricked by the fact that, for example, like on Amazon, like all these really cheap mattresses have 4.8 stars. They'll still be tricked by that. Like they've gotten a little bit more sophisticated, enough to, at least some consumers have, like enough to maybe think that they're being wise and savvy. Or even likewise with these review sites. Like sometimes I'll hear like a user tester on our site be like, like, yeah, maybe I'll go to like one of those so-called review sites and see, or like we'll show them a review site and they'll say like, well, but I don't know what relationship this guy maybe has with those brands. And you think, oh, they're savvy. But so what I would do, I would just go to Google. I'd Google this product and see what shows up then. And I'm like, oh, well, if you do that, it's going to be like that same shyster is going to show up. So it's like they're trying to be savvy, or they're trying to be a little smarter, but they're absolutely ill-equipped. They don't have the information, and they're still fundamentally, one of the problems is they still trust some of these big, like they trust Amazon, they trust Google, and neither Amazon nor Google are providing them good information in this category. So that while they're distrustful of some of the things they're finding, their default to go back to those big tech companies that they use across all categories actually leads them to the wrong place in this category. And that sort of brings you to like where the problem is for retailers. Is like retailers, the journey's moved online. And as the journey moves online, more time is being spent, more of the decision gets made online before ever visiting a store, sometimes without ever visiting a store. Certainly, even if they go to a store, they're going to fewer stores. So the retailers are getting less of a chance to even have a crack at this consumer. And one of the reasons for that is that as they go on places like Google, every time they land on one of those spammy review sites, the job one of that spam review site is to convince you to never go to a store. Then job two is to convince you to buy one of the brands that pays them the most money and so forth. So they become, every time they land on one of those sites, they become incrementally less likely to ever set foot in the store. That's a big issue for retailers.
Nice. So how do retailers and other sellers of mattresses, how do they combat that and create a more authentic approach, I suppose?
So we've talked about, part of it is SEO. Part of it is showing up in search. And I do think that having user-generated content, consumer reviews on your website is a big piece of that. Like that, it's one of the reasons why I think they've gotten squeezed out by some of these spammy review sites. And that's something that we're helping retailers with, is providing user-generated content for them to show on their website. But that's a big topic, SEO. One of the things I think we can cover in a smaller amount of time is, like, once you get someone to your website, this increasingly cynical consumer, we've always talked about in the store interaction, when someone walks into a store, the RSA's first 15 minutes generally are about, how do you win their trust, right? Like, okay, they walk in with their guard up. I don't want to be sold to, like, just leave me alone. First 15 minutes is trying to win their trust. Then you can kind of maybe help them to the finish line of making a purchase. But what needs to happen online, as the journey moves online, and as people's become more choosy about whether they even go to a store, that trust has to be won in the online interaction. So how do you do that? Number one, your website has to look nice, has to look modern, just like a nice, clean store. It presents an image that they care, they put some thought into this. You need to have high quality images that people can really get a sense of the product. It's kind of like having clean floor models, right? Like, you don't want to have like rumpled up covers and all that stuff. You want to have really good product details and information on your website. That's like having a knowledgeable salesperson. All these things help build trust. Video content, we've found, has been a huge factor in building trust, because it makes there's a relatability, there's nonverbal cues that people key in on when they're seeing a person. This is someone I can trust. They're shooting straight with me. Like, they can pick up on that. So video content can be a great way. And then, of course, last but absolutely not least, in fact, maybe most important of all, I think, is third-party validation. So if you're trying to win someone's trust, the best way, I think, is, look, don't believe what I have to say. Look what these other people have to say. That's the oldest form, and I still think it is absolutely the most powerful way to build trust. So that, for a retailer on their website, could be store reviews, people who've shopped at your store and are talking about their experience. It could be product reviews, and by the way, it should be all of these things. but it could be any of them. store reviews, product reviews, so reviews of the products that you carry and what are people's experiences with those products, what have they been, and that's again where one of the things we can help with. And then of course there could be independent third-party content. That's pretty hard to come by. Honestly, I feel odd saying this, but I don't think there's anyone else besides what we do at Goodbed that I would consider to be like trustworthy, independent content, from a third party that you could put on your website. But that is something that you could do. You could show some of our videos and what have you. That's another thing we work with retailers to offer. So those things will help as well. So overall, if you're doing all of that huge family of things that I mentioned, you can win that consumer's trust while they're shopping on your website. You'll still have to win it again a little bit when they walk in the door, but hopefully they walk in the door.
Absolutely. Because if they don't come in the door, you lost them, right?
Yes,
You've lost
that's
them.
right.
So,
that's right. And that's an increasing reality in today's environment.
Yeah. So that's a whole lot. And I love that you're like, okay, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. It's something that our audience can take away. And you're going to scream, but that's all the time we have. All the time we have.
We're just getting warmed up.
I know. That's the way it always happens, right? You're like, wait, no. But anyway, folks can always reach out to you. They can reach out to me and we can share more ideas for sure. But I appreciate you taking the time.
It's my pleasure, as always, to talk to you, Sheila. Have a great day.
Thanks. Drink some more coffee.
I will definitely do that.
Thanks much. Again, I'm Sheila Longo, Merrill Furniture Today. Thanks so much for tuning in.